Welcome to Threshold Design in Issue Management. We will provide a quick overview of the conceptual framework for issue management and then focus on threshold design. Summing up the presentation with a scenario that we hope will help you better understand the concept of threshold design. Establishing an effective issue management framework starts with separating issues that matter from everyday issues. A proactive strategy requires progressive thinking and agility. In order to be effective, it needs to be sustainable. The information on this slide comes directly from a Transliterate manuscript on issue management. This picture provides an overview of issue management, documenting the different pathways that issues could follow. The cloud at the top represents occurrences or situations that require simple correction with no effect on clinical development activities. These are managed through normal business and not via the issue management framework. That's not saying that they won't be. If the same quick fix keeps occurring, it should be elevated up as an issue flowing into the funnel. When an issue first occurs, the first step is triage. Triage positions organisations to effectively focus on addressing issues that matter by applying the necessary resources, funding, skills, etc. to bring about appropriate resolution. Issues that matter are issues that materially impact any of the following: patient safety, rights and well-being, data integrity and/or scientific rigour, compliance with regulatory requirements, and trust in the clinical research enterprise. As shown in the diagram, triage can also identify other issues, non-issues that matter, that can be managed through the clinical development enterprise in a manner commensurate with impact. It is these issues that we will focus on for threshold design. So what are the basic triage principles? Establish thresholds and predefine tolerance limits. This provides structure to the triage process and provides a mechanism to differentiate issues that matter from other issues with lower impact. It also allows filtering of issues, categorising or bucketing issues for further remediation. The bucket pictured below represents one of many repositories for managing clinical issues filtered out of the funnel. Prioritising issues helps provide appropriate resources to bring about resolution. Company triage procedures need to be established in advance with defined roles and responsibilities. Thresholds should be defined during the organisation's risk management activities, taking into account the organisation's risk tolerance policies and procedures, as well as external regulations and guidelines. Triage involves a cross-functional team. Looking at the bigger picture facilitates a better understanding of issue impact. Having a structured triage process provides many benefits. Not only does it allow differentiation of issues that matter from other issues, a structured triage process indicates a level of control during issue management. It provides focus, ensuring the most appropriate investment of time, effort and resources. The structure helps outline steps and provides assurance that a consistent assessment is performed. Like triage, there are basic principles for threshold design. Categorization of issues allows for trending and analytics. Data from trending and analytics aids in establishing tolerance levels. Thresholds are predefined tolerance limits normally established during process risk management activities. The number and placement of thresholds is company dependent. Upfront planning is key. Impact determination is necessary for establishing thresholds. Designing thresholds requires an understanding of the processes associated with the issue. This may require cross-functional team involvement. Know the process well enough to identify operations or functions that could be impacted. The ability to assess the level of impact is key. All determination should be based on scientifically valid information. Relying on analytical data, historical data, and trends over time can help determine impact and set tolerance levels. Examples of level of impact could be high, medium, low, or critical, major, or minor. Company-established risk management procedures provide guidance for assessing impact and defining roles and responsibilities for activities. Thresholds can act as control steps within a given activity. The outputs or data generated direct the next step. The model below is just one example of how a threshold can direct activities. Proceed if there's minimal impact from an issue. The threshold or tolerance level has not been reached. Proceed at risk if the tolerance limit is being approached. For areas of concern, an early warning tolerance limit can be used as the first threshold. This can signal that there is no impact at the moment, but this is an area to watch. Take action if the threshold is reached or exceeded. The impact could be high. This slide outlines key activities for threshold design. Threshold design starts with outlining the process, mapping out all inputs and outputs of the process, and when possible, a cross-functional team should be used for process mapping. Review the activities and identify what could be a potential issue. Then compile available data and information and use it to assess the potential impact of the issues. Use the information compiled to evaluate potential thresholds, one level or more than one level. Review the potential issues with the cross-functional team and establish thresholds. Review and approve thresholds in accordance with company policies and procedures. The next step is to operationalise the thresholds. Build them into the process and/or develop standard procedures so that mechanisms for detection, measurement and communication are put in place. As the process matures, ensure organisational oversight. Monitor and adjust the threshold over time based on compiled data and trending information. Let's apply what was learned to a scenario. Let's take a look at a project kick-off meeting during the risk management session. The attendees include the clinical trial leader, the clinical program managers and clinical operations personnel. The project manager points out what is completed. The study has been mapped out, the areas of impact have been identified, and the thresholds have been developed and agreed upon. At this point, the team needs to figure out if there is anything that they have missed. The biostatistician has stated that if more than 25 subjects are lost, they will not be able to maintain statistical powering of the study. The subjects for the study will recruit from a clinical trial repository, so not all subjects will come from the principal investigator's practice. There is concern for the verification of inclusion and exclusion criteria for these subjects. Medical history is collected during screening, and past experience has shown a higher rate of post-enrollment exclusion critical deviations for subjects. The subject's primary care physician may provide new or additional information later. New information could also be uncovered at the time of adverse event reporting. The team comes up with a few ways to minimise the risk. The clinical trial manager suggests to emphasise the requirements for screening and enrolling subjects that are not from the investigator's practice during the investigator meeting. and being transparent about the impact of losing the subject to exclusion criteria deviations after enrolment. The data manager suggests that the team could set 1 or 2 thresholds in the protocol deviation system to alert if there is an issue. The first threshold could be an early warning at 5 subjects. The second threshold could be a warning at 15 subjects. It would be up to the team to decide what actions should be taken at each threshold. The team agrees and sets up and plans the actions for each threshold. Months have passed and the trial has started. A study coordinator calls the clinical trial manager to report an exclusion criteria issue. The study coordinator says that one of the subjects experienced an adverse event and went to an emergency care facility for treatment. The principal investigator talked to the treating physician, and it appears that the subject was treated there a week before they were enrolled in the study. They are in the process of getting the records, but it appears that the treatment during the visit would have excluded the subject from the study. The clinical trial manager told the study coordinator that if this is found to be correct, to follow up with the CRA and report the deviation to the ethics committee. Later that day, in the clinical team meeting, the clinical trial manager told the team that site 004 called to let them know that there was a possible exclusion criteria protocol deviation. After a review of the deviations in the system, if this deviation is confirmed, the early warning threshold of 5 exclusion protocol deviations will be reached. The team will now need to review the action plan for this threshold. The following flow diagram takes a holistic view of issue management and the scenario just reviewed. An issue comes into the funnel and flows out as a non-issue that matters. These issues can be managed through normal clinical development processes in a manner commensurate with the impact. As you can see on the right, these issues require remediation. All decisions should be documented and the issues trended and tracked for future use. Trending and analytics will be discussed in another tool. The centre column shows an assessment of the issues. Triage differentiated issues that matter from other issues, but all issues need to be assessed to determine if there's a higher degree of concern than initially thought. There may not have been material impact at the time triage was performed, but the assessment could identify a systematic issue. Has the issue been previously identified across functions, studies or processes? The assessment could also uncover an underlying concern that could move quickly to a critical issue. As depicted in the flow diagram, these issues should be escalated back up as an issue that matters. The scenario used multiple thresholds. As stated before, the number and placement of thresholds is company dependent. By building multiple thresholds into the process, the team was alerted to take action before any major impact could occur. If the issue continued to occur, there could be high impact to subject safety or data integrity. Depending on the agreed upon action plan, if the next threshold is reached, the issue could be sent back through the funnel to be processed as an issue that matters. Categorization of these issues allows for trending and analytics. Data from these activities aid in identifying systemic issues as well as establishing and updating tolerance limits over time. Taking a proactive approach and setting thresholds and limits helps establish an effective issue management framework. Let's take a look at another scenario. This involves an issue with the IRT system. In preparation for the next periodic monitoring visit, the Clinical Research Associate runs a subject list report from the IRT system. In reviewing the list, the CRA sees that 2 subjects have been assigned the same subject number. The CRA immediately contacts the clinical trial manager for the study. The clinical trial manager confirms the duplicate subject number and immediately begins an investigation. When subjects are randomised, they are assigned a 9-digit code. The first digit corresponds to the testing strategy, such as safety, immunogenicity, etc., and the remaining 8 digits are the subject number. The IRT system was programmed to randomise the 8-digit subject code, then add the testing strategy digit. The clinical trial manager confirmed that 2 subjects had been assigned the exact same number. Members of the clinical team are pulled together to take a holistic look at the issue. The IRT vendor, data management, biostatistics, clinical logistics and study management review and evaluate the IRT system, setup and validation. The CRA and study management review the randomisation process. The analytical testing group reviews the integration of the testing strategy. The team also evaluates impact on other trials. The investigation determined that specifications for the IRT system setup were in place and used for system setup. No issues were identified during user acceptance testing of the system. The randomisation process was performed properly and no issues were noted during the process. The analytical testing group reviewed the integration of the testing strategy. The IRT system vendor investigation identified a system glitch on the server. The issue should not reoccur. A corrective action was made at the trial level for one of the subjects. The team evaluated the impact on other trials. Even though the IRT system vendor confirmed that the issue is not expected to reoccur, any study using this IRT vendor system is at risk. A communication was sent out to management and all teams using this IRT vendor, informing them of the issue and asking them to closely monitor subject code assignments. Thank you for listening to this presentation.